right, thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ken Ladden, and CityWide TV presents. It's that time of the year that sometimes we overindulge in drinking, alcohol. And on our show, we're going to talk about the signs and symptoms of an alcoholic. And if you've already been, diagnosed, or if you already are an alcoholic, we're going to talk about how you can stay sober through all the parties and the social events that you may be going to through this holiday season. I want to thank you all for coming on the show. It's great to have you all. CADA, you may hear us say it, that is the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. CADA, Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. So listen up. I know you've been telling someone they're drinking too much and you really can't get through to them. And maybe through this show that they will see that they really need to get help if they're overindulging in alcohol. Let me ask y'all, it is the season to be joyous and to really have a good time, Christine. Do you think that most people drink, or people drink more during the season of Thanksgiving and throughout New Year's, because there are so many parties and office parties, and you're invited to something almost daily in the month of December? Do you think it's the time that people drink a little bit more than they usually?
I think it's easy to overindulge because you get excited that it's the holidays and you're celebrating, so things are happy, and so some people might have a few more drinks than they normally would because it's celebration.
Right. I wonder because, I hear people all the time say, well, I don't drink, and, but during this time of the year, I do a little social drinking. For an alcoholic, social drinking is out of the question.
Yes,
Okay.
and I know that Bill can probably elaborate on that a little bit more as to why it's not acceptable or
why?
Can't
because,
happen.
And for Bill, who's been on the show a number of times, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. It's not like an ex-alcoholic that, okay, I can control it now. I've been through this great program, CADA, and now I can have a beer or two with friends. But you're saying that's a no-no if you are an alcoholic.
Right. Alcohol dependency or addiction is really classified by various signs and symptoms. Typically, those that have dependent disorders or people that cannot cut down or control the amount of alcohol that they use. Now, most of those folks don't drink, in most cases, with the intentions of having consequences. But, one of the things that we look at is, when someone is dependent on alcohol, for example, they drink despite adverse consequences, which could be family issues, issues with their jobs. They're preoccupied with their time as it relates to getting their next drink, taking their next drink. There's issues that can be related to health, legal and financial problems.
Right. But we know there are people out there who are, it's a term, functional alcoholics. They work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 or whatever, and they're able to do their job, and you would not know they're an alcoholic. Are there closet alcoholics that may just only drink and overindulge and get drunk at home, but they don't maybe not do it publicly? Is that a particular group of people?
It is. There's really three levels when we look at substance use disorders. It's usually mild, moderate, and severe. And for someone to have a specific problem, they will fall in one of those three areas, which is going to be your functional alcoholic. May be able to get up and go to work every day and take care of certain responsibilities, but may spend the weekend binge drinking, and suffer things like blackouts, which are memory losses, and may not be mentally and emotionally capable of taking care of things that needs to be taken care of, but can get up and go to work on Monday morning and do his job.
Right. Is it hereditary, Christine?
I would say in some cases it is hereditary, but there are also, clients that we serve that have never had it in either sides of their family, and they find it. So it really just depends.
Right, it just depends on the person. Okay, what about? I think Bill was talking about. Are certain people, their brain, is it wired a certain way that they can't drink alcohol where others it's all right? Because I know there are some people who can have a beer or two and then they're out of control. I mean, they're almost on the floor, passed out. And there are some who can have a whole six-pack and it doesn't really affect them one way or the other. Is it anything going on with the brain that will cause one to be able to drink more than the other?
I'm going to have Bill
That's
answer
the
this. I mean, he's kind of the guy.
Okay, all right.
It is. We look at, and I don't really want to take up a whole lot of time getting into the neurochemistry of the brain.
Right.
But people that suffer from addictive disorders have a malfunction in their brain. Their brain's just wired to, and they don't necessarily drink to the point or drink with the intentions
Okay.
of having
Overindulging
consequences
right.
or overindulging.
Right.
Primarily, they're drinking for the purposes of the pleasure produced by alcohol. Now, if you take a normal social drinker, they're out at a party, having a good time, may have one or two drinks, but not drinking with the intentions of having some specific effect produced by alcohol.
Okay.
People that are alcoholic or alcohol dependent
Right.
drink for that particular reason.
Right.
Never the consequences, always the pleasure.
Right.
Now, the continue to drink that creates consequences,
Right.
although they suffer issues, like I said, related to family, job, financial, or health.
Right. Or the worst thing ever, driving while you're drunk. And we know that they really are hard on that now, So, we really have to be careful, get that designated driver. So we want to really impress. If you had too much to drink, please do not drive. Now, Susan, you're now part of CADA, which is Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. But you were you a former alcoholic and drug addict?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that and what was going on.
So I started drinking and using at a young age,
Okay.
and that it really began with I grew up in a small town. I had a lot of family issues, and so I started drinking because that's what everyone else was doing, and it allowed me to feel as though I was fitting in with the people that were around me. And in doing so, I learned that by drinking, it changed the way I felt. And
For the moment.
For the moment.
Okay.
Right. And so the longer I continued to do those things, the consequences of the continuance of me drinking and using drugs caught up with me.
Okay.
And they got more severe the longer that I did it.
Do you mind sharing those that you feel comfortable with? Because somebody needs to know that, if you overindulge, then there are consequences for your actions.
Of course. I mean, I was pulled over many times. I never was arrested for a DWI, but I was arrested on multiple drug charges. And it clearly is just a miracle in itself that I wasn't ever arrested for drunk driving. I'm sure growing up in a small town, had an effect on that.
Right.
But, like I said, it got worse. There was a point where, I just drank on the weekends or I just used drugs on the weekends, and then it was, I got old enough where I had to keep a job and things like that. And so for a time frame, I was that functional alcoholic and drug user. But it led me into a point where I wasn't able to do that anymore. Like the only thing, like it was my survival skill was to drink and use drugs. It was how I got through the day, and that's where I ended up. With a long stay in jail, and I knew at that point that I needed help. Right. Because prior to going to jail that last time, I knew that I wanted to stop, but I just didn't know how to do it myself.
Right.
And so I was able to ask to be sent to treatment where I could get some help.
Right. And I guess that's the question, Christina and Bill, because there are people out there, family members say you drink too much, you're an alcoholic, and there are people who say, I can stop when I get ready, But a person has to realize that they need the help, even though family members are saying it, friends are saying, man or woman, you really drink too much. Do most people have to hit rock bottom? I mean, we just heard Susan's story, being arrested several times and all the things that she had to go through before she realized, okay, this is not the life I really want to live. I need to get some help.
I would say not necessarily. I mean, some cases, a lot of our clients that come to CADA have hit rock bottom, but some of them are on their way down to that spot. But we, have clients come in all different walks of where they are in their own journey, where they decide whether or not they need help or not.
Right. Bill, so she talks about alcohol and drugs, and sometimes that seem to go together. I hear a lot of people say, when I drink, I smoke. I don't smoke until I drink. So is there a kind of a correlation between people who drink and use drugs?
Yeah, well, most people that we treat have, they come in having abused multiple substances.
Okay.
Now you'll have them in our programs that have a primary use of a particular drug, and secondary and sometimes additional drugs that they may use, but they primarily want to use alcohol. Some primarily are taking narcotic pain medication. Some are primarily using marijuana. And each of those have different chemical effects, but rarely do we treat someone that's just using one particular substance.
Right. Okay. All right. Great. Well, we're going to take a break. For those of you, if you're just tuning in, we're talking with people who are involved with Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana, and the acronym is CADA. And if you know someone who may have a problem with alcohol, you may want them to listen up, because there is help on the way, and they do a really great job in really turning these people's lives around if you're addicted to drugs or either if you have an alcohol problem. So stay with us, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the initiatives and the key services that they offer at CADA.
My grandfather served in World War II. Spending time with him were the best memories of my life. I became a physician at VA because of my grandfather, so I can help others like him. I can't imagine working with better doctors or a more dedicated staff. I'm fulfilling my life's mission with the help of my team and thanks to these veterans. I'm proud to be a doctor at VA and proud to honor my grandfather every day. Search VA Careers to find out more.
Since 1970, Christian Service has helped the less fortunate within our community. Keeping with the vision of Sister Margaret, we serve 2 hot meals a day, 364 days a year. Now, feeding our community has become an even greater challenge, and Christian Service is in need of your help. Partner with us by making a donation that will allow Christian Service to continue treating our less fortunate with dignity, love, and hope. Call us today at 221-4857.
We're the stronger than we look type, the braver than you think type, the type that knows the time will come when we put type 1 behind us. We're the progress is inevitable type, the hopeful for a cure type, the type that will stop at nothing until type 1 becomes type none.
For I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. A stranger, and you welcomed me. Naked, and you clothed me. Sister Margaret founded Christian Service Hospitality House in 1970 to serve those in need. The core mission of feeding the hungry has not changed, but there is a need to address the greater number of people who are not only hungry, but homeless. Christian Service has partnered with Hope for the Homeless to serve an even greater number of people. Give hope. Visit ChristianServiceLA.org.
All right, we're talking with people who work with CADA, which is Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana. And their theme is offering healing, hope, and happiness from addiction. If you know someone who's having a problem, they have an adult treatment program that's really great. And I'm wondering, Christine, if somebody out there who's watching and they really confess to themselves that I really need help, because I'm always told that you are the first one to know that you need help, whether you really admit it or not. But admitting it is certainly the first step in getting help. What would they need to do if they're watching this show and they say, I don't want to live like this any longer. I've messed up with my family. I've lost numerous jobs. I've been arrested many times for DWI and other various, offenses because of my drinking or my drug abuse. What do they need to do?
Well, the great thing about CADA is, we have a lot of referral sources in town. So a lot of times clients are sent to us from hospitals, doctors' offices, probation officers, but also someone can get referred to CADA by just simply calling our number.
Oh, okay.
We have 4 different facilities, but they're all connected with a phone system, so they just need to call in directly. They'll do a screening over the phone, and then they'll be able to let them know whether or not they're admitted and also what level of care they need to be in.
Okay, okay. Let me ask you, because, Bill, when we look at this program, and you had some key surges, medically assisted detox program, someone out there who has a problem and they're thinking about coming to this program, I'm sure they've said to themselves, and probably asked this to Susan later, that I can quit when I want to, or many people probably have stopped using for a while. It's like losing weight, It's like, okay, I'm good, I'm going to stop eating, I'm going to exercise, and they'll do it for a while, but then somehow, they end up back where they were, or either worse. So how does it work when someone comes in there and who's tried, they say, okay, I want to give this a try?
Well, most people that have a dependent disorder, they can stop, they just can't stay stopped.
Okay.
And typically when people, when they come see us, it's typically those folks that cannot continue to abstain without professional help.
Okay.
And I think most people that suffer from dependent disorders that have consequences really want to discontinue the behavior that causes the consequences.
Right.
Because they don't drink to get in trouble.
Right.
And it really takes professional counseling and supportive services in an environment that really is conducive to abstaining from the use of chemicals.
Right.
So when they come to CADA, we can provide them with those sort of interventions that will assist these guys, whether it's in an outpatient setting or one of our residential programs.
Right.
Because they have tools that are offered to them to for them to make a decision today not to drink.
Right.
And even things that we can provide them post-discharge from our services, supportive environment, support groups, even housing in the community.
Okay.
Where these folks can have an environment that's conducive to staying clean, because sometimes the environment is the problem.
Right, that's true.
If I quit drinking and I go back to a place where there's alcohol,
right,
I'm probably going to start drinking again.
Right. And Susan, I think about that, because I hear people say they're going to stop certain things, whether it's drinking, drugs, or whatever, but then their best friends, are alcoholics, or they use drugs, or they're riding with them. I'm going to this place with my partner, or whatever, and I'm thinking, in order to really you move from that and to stay sober, or to stay, away from drugs, then you can't hang out with the same people. You really have to change friends, and sometimes family members, even close family members. Did you have to do those things?
Yes. So basically, you have to change your people, places, and things.
Okay.
What I did find out when I got sober was that a lot of people that I thought were my friends were not really my friends. They were just people that I drank and I used drugs with. So there were some people I relocated. I didn't go back to the small town that I was from. I stayed in Shreveport, and I was given that opportunity because CADA did the things like Bill was talking about. They pointed me in the right directions. Right. They set up an interview for me to go into a sober living environment, a sober living house, and I lived there for an extended amount of time before I actually moved out on my own, and I did. I had to cut a lot of people out because they weren't willing to change, and I have to do what is right for me to stay sober. I don't go to bars. I don't go to most places that have alcohol, you know, or that, I mean, I'm at a point in my sobriety now where, you know, I can go to a restaurant that sells alcohol and it doesn't really bother me, but you know, I don't go to those types of places.
You don't put yourself in the position
right,
that you
because given I'm in a certain frame of mind or something, that would basically be putting myself in harm's way, you know, for it to be right there in front of my face.
So how long have you been sober, Susan?
I will have been sober 3 years on December the 3rd.
Okay, well, share with us, because we were talking about this, you know, during the holiday season, and there are people out there like you may have gone through, you know, CADA or other programs, or may have just, you know, stopped themselves and hadn't had a drink this whole year, but they know once they start, they take that one drink, it's like the Lay's potato chip, just can't have one.
Right.
Okay, they know that they're going to go too far, and so and we want people to enjoy this season. I mean, I love this time of the year, and to think that because you have an addiction or, you know, you're an alcoholic, that you can't really enjoy. How do you handle that? I mean, family, friends, your work, all people have, you know, parties and little social events, and you want to enjoy life. You don't want to just, you know, end up being, you know, at home and not being able to enjoy others.
Right. Yeah. I don't refrain from those things, you know. I know how far I can go.
Right, okay.
And if I put myself somewhere where they are serving alcohol and everybody's drinking, if I start to feel uncomfortable where I'm at, then I can remove myself from that situation. I can say, well, it's been fun, it's time for me to go, you know. And I don't have to do that as often now, but in the beginning I did, because I do have family members who are alcoholics, whether they choose to believe it or not, and you know, it's not for me to decide for them, and that's what I have to do in those situations. You know, I still go and I visit and things like that, but when I feel like it's time for me to go, then I leave. You know, and you know, I also, you know, I try to surround myself with people who are like me, people in recovery, and I do a lot of things with those people during these times, you know, this time of the year.
Right. So, Christian, what age do you see? Because we know teenage drinking is a big problem, because teenagers all the time are, you know, buying drinks, or someone who's an adult, which I think is really, you know, ridiculous for an adult to buy drinks for a teenager. And, you know, fake IDs and all those things, and they are cracking down on these stores who are, you know, selling to minors. Sometimes they have undercover, you know, police officers in there, and it's like when they see them coming in there and they're not checking IDs and all of that. So I think we're on the right road to making sure that, you know, that people are drinking responsibly. But of course, you know, there's still much work to be done.
Well, CADA actually has an adolescent treatment center.
Okay.
It's actually in downtown Shreveport. We actually see clients at that facility ages 12 to 17, both boys and girls. And
12? I'm sorry.
12, yeah.
Really? Oh boy.
Yes, I mean,
just started drinking Cokes then.
Yeah, and I mean,
just getting off milk.
And our counselors have told us that the age that our adolescent clients begin using is actually getting younger and younger. So it's really important that we are here in the community. Another kind of important program that we have, it's at our adolescent center, but we also have the ability to accept pregnant teenagers. And I know that's something that we don't want to, I mean, and it's good that we have that resource in Shreveport, Bossier, that, and we accept clients from all over the state. So we get clients from New Orleans and Lake Charles, all over.
So would a parent have to, I don't know if the word commit or bring their child, they have to be paper signed by the parent?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they are under the age of 18.
Okay. And so how does a parent become responsible? Are there meetings, or do you counsel the parents as well to make sure that the child is doing what he or she should do?
Well, Bill actually used to run and operate some programs, and he can add a little bit more about the adolescent experience.
If a parent, you know, if you have a 13 or 14-year-old who's an alcoholic or a drug addict, then the parents will really have to be involved. But Bill, sometimes the parents are the ones who encourage them to become, and I don't say become, but they saw them doing it.
Right.
And they took the lead from them.
Unfortunately, that's true in a lot of cases, not all.
Right.
You know, sometimes it's the environment.
Yeah, I understand.
And children learn from the environment. So, you know, in the case that we have children, adolescents in our programs, We do provide family counseling for those, and it's a little more difficult for those that are in other parts of the state. But if it's a local adolescent that's in our program, we provide therapy for the families because the family needs to understand the things that they need to do to support that child in his or her recovery. And sometimes there are changes and things that they can do in the home that will continue to support and enhance their recovery. You know, changing their views on life, you know. You know, one of the things that we found out that happens more and more often because of prescription pain medication is, and it's unintentional, but the things that are left in our home, like in medicine cabinets, you know, bars and homes, you know, where children and adolescents have access to alcohol and other drugs.
Right. And you know, sometimes, and I need to think, you know, more open-minded about that, because sometimes we think of drugs just being marijuana, or if we say, you know, weed or whatever. But drug addiction could be painkillers. So you do see people who are addicted.
Which is one of the biggest things that we're treating now.
Okay.
The narcotic pain medication is it's a huge issue in this community. And unfortunately, it's turning from the prescription medication to street heroin because it's harder and harder to get prescription medication.
Okay, all right. Let's take a break, and that's a really great point, because I know there are people who say that, you know, they're addicted to drugs, and it's because you may have had an injury and you got hooked on, you know, painkillers, but you know, you all work with them as well, and so you may want to give them a call and come by. We'll take a break and we'll be right back, so stay with us.
A child's brain is a marvel. By the time a child is 3 years old, her brain has reached 90% of its adult size. Yet poverty overwhelms a child's ability to develop and live fully. At Child Fund International, we partner with parents and caregivers, providing family support and guidance on early child development, nutrition, and basic health practices. We help children early so they can thrive later. Childfund.org. Disrupting poverty.
For I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. A stranger, and you welcomed me. Naked, and you clothed me. Sister Margaret founded Christian Service Hospitality House in 1970 to serve those in need. The core mission of feeding the hungry has not changed, but there is a need to address the greater number of people who are not only hungry, but homeless. Christian Service has partnered with Hope for the Homeless to serve an even greater number of people. Give hope. Visit ChristianServiceLA.org.
Little voice came on the phone and said, Daddy, when you come home. He said the first thing that came to his mind, I'm already there. I'm already there. Take a look around. Oh, I'm already there.
Being there. Pass it on.
Since 1970, Christian Service has helped the less fortunate within our community. Keeping with the vision of Sister Margaret, we serve 2 hot meals a day, 364 days a year. Now, feeding our community has become an even greater challenge, and Christian Service is in need of your help. Partner with us by making